In my last video, I introduced you to my Polish ancestors, the Bujanowskis, including my grandmother, Frances, and my great-grandparents, Chester and Winifred. Today, I'm going to take you back another generation to the first Bujanowskis in my line to come to America, including August Bujanowski, Leokadja Komorowski, and their brood of 12 children. Stick with me and hear the story on this episode of We Tell Their Stories. My great-great-grandparents, August and Laura Bujanowski, must have had some very interesting moments in their lives. They came to America aboard a ship called the Palatia, which departed from a port in Hamburg on the 28th of April in 1895. According to the 1910 census, they had been married for 17 years at that point, so we can assume that they were married in about 1893. So in the ship records from the Palatia, we can see that there's August Bujanowski, who is 34, Leokadja, who is Laura, who is 22, a young child named Victoria, who's 3, and we're going to discover some interesting things about Victoria. I think they were married 2 years ago, and Victoria's 3. And then there's a John Bujanowski, who must be a brother to August, based on the age in comparison. Probably wouldn't be able to be a son. So taking a look at the 1910 census that I mentioned, we're going to see some really interesting details. You'll see Laura, now listed as Laura, is the wife of August, and at the very end columns, the questions there are, how many children have you had, and how many of those children are still living? And so you can see the number is that she's had 5 children and 5 are still living. This can tell us a lot of information on a 1910 census, particularly if you're going from the 1900 to the 1910 census and there's children that died in infancy. You can kind of track more how many children were actually born within a family. Now, if you take a look at the kids that are listed here, there's 6 of them actually in the house. So we must know that only from John down to Janine are actually the children of Laura. Joseph, who's listed as a son, must just be the son of August. And if you remember Victoria, who was 3 years old on the passenger records, Victoria must have been a baby who was being taken care of by Laura, but Laura was not actually the parent of. So we'll have to look into that and see what discoveries we have. So with Victoria, I take a look at her obituary. I eventually figure out who was she married to, what was her last name, because one thing with doing research of people a little bit further back is that often you'll find women aren't always referred to by their first name, but their Mrs. and then their husband's name. In Victoria's obituary, I find that she was born in Warsaw, Poland. So that narrows down the area of Poland a little bit, and it also lists that her mother's name is Antonina Piatkowski. So while Antonina Piatkowski isn't actually my ancestor, she was married to my great-great-grandfather, August Bujanowski, and eventually we're going to see that Antonina had 3 children with August, at least 3 children with August before probably her death and his marriage to Laura. From Victoria's obituary, I'm led by the list of surviving siblings that are in there to a new name that I hadn't seen before, who's another Antonina Bujanowski, who eventually married someone by the last name of Janicki, and her obituary, however, actually lists that her parents are August and Mary Bujanowski. So since Antonina is actually the oldest that I found so far in this family, have been born in 1882, I can almost start to piece together that August was married to Mary. Something must have happened to Mary, so that eventually August was married to Antonina, and along with Antonina, he had 3 other kids. So there was Victoria, who we saw, Stanislaus, who was born in Poland in 1887, but eventually in 1900 came over to the Amsterdam area, Joseph, who was born in 1888 in Poland and also eventually ended up in America too. Then, once they're in America, August and Laura are continuing to have kids together. There's going to be 12 of them in total, 8 with Laura. So along with Laura, we can kind of track through obituary records or birth records kind of where they ended up after they came to America as well. So they would have probably come in the port of Ellis Island or somewhere around there. And I know that they lived in Hoboken, New Jersey for a little bit, because in 1898, 3 years after they had come to America, their first son together, John, was born. And his information shows that he was born in Hoboken. Then there was Genevieve, born in 1901, and we're now in Amsterdam, and we're going to be in Amsterdam, New York for really the rest of their lives. And a lot of the family just settled there and stayed there for a long time. It was had a really big Polish population. Rounding out the first generation of American-born Bou Janowskis was Walter, who was born in 1903, Chester, my great-grandfather, born in 1907, Jean, born in 1909, William, born in 1913, Carrie, born in 1916, and finally Pauline, born in 1917. During the span of time, August, from his first child, was 19 years old, and when he had his last child, he was 54. Laura's first child, she was 22, and she had her last one when she was 41. August died in 1933, which meant that Laura still had 23 years left of life, and by all accounts, she really did just live her life. From what my grandmother recalls, Laura really liked to go out. She loved to socialize and dance. She liked to go out to the Polish club, and really must have had a lot of family to support her as well. When Laura died in 1956, her obituary lists that she had 35 grandchildren and 25 great-grandchildren. So from this one family of Bou Janowskis, we had quite a span. So the question is, where are all the Bou Janowskis now? Do you know a Bou Janowski? Are you a Bou Janowski? Do you have any stories that you can add to this? Feel free to comment or to tell your own story of your Polish ancestors. Thanks for joining me today on this episode of We Tell Their Stories. If you like this video, subscribe to my channel, What's Up Welsakin, and I hope to see you around. Have a good day.